Welcome everyone, Tactical H here, and we're back for more Warpstone Cup Best of 3s. Today we have a battle between, on the green side, Butcherbird, and on the red side, Xiphos. Two very good players, and let's see how the battle will play out. Now on the green side, Butcherbird going for the green skins, very thematic there. A front line of goblins and a second line of stone trolls mixed in with orc airboys for their relatively good armor-piercing missiles, and then further back a couple units of Goblin Wolf Riders to provide some faster mobility. Nasty Skulkers guarding the Hammer of Gork with their special contact effect of Blinded, reducing melee defense and melee attack plus also accuracy. Really good against both melee and missile units. As for the heavier cavalry, a ton of Bacon Cav, Orc Boar Boy Biggins and Orc Boar Boys, 5 of them in total, 2 of them regular Boar Boys, 3 of them Boar Boy Biggins. Leading the army, we have a Night Goblin War Boss, providing some really solid movement control combo, Fermented Fungi to rampage enemy cavalry, and Tormentor Sword to lock them down once they are in melee. Night Goblin Shaman also comes in with a Gargle Fixit for that speed reduction. And then on top of that, Itchy Nuisance plus Sneaky Stabbing to get the melee engagements a bit more favorable for the Greenskin army. Nasty Skulkers also have the Smoke Bomb, so anything that tries to charge into the Hammer of Gork, they will just get hit by the Smoke Bomb and slowed down, allowing the Bacon Calf to countercharge. As for the other side of the battlefield, Bretonnians, we have a skirmishing force of mounted yeoman archers, one of them the poison dealing Wardens of Montfort, and then for the main formation, a ton of peasants really. 3 units of peasant mobs, and then 4 units of peasant mobs actually. Wait, 5 and 1 more on the flank there. And then a bunch of men-at-arms mixed in with Beastliers of Baston and Holy Wardens of La Maison Tau, relatively elite infantry for the Bretonnian army. As for the mobility, really staple for the Bretonnians, a bunch of Knights of the Realm, and also a single unit of Royal Hippogriff Knights for their solid melee power. They are also supported by 1 unit of Feud Trebuchet to pound away at the greenskin formations, leading the army Fey Enchantress, coming in with her Earthblood healing, and the Dwellers below. There's also Favor of the Fey and Chalice of Potions. Now do note that this battle was played and recorded before patch 5.1, so the unit stats on all the units here are not updated yet. Anyways, that's it for the army builds. Now let's get the battle started, as the mounted yeoman archer already taking some damage from the Hammer of Gork, getting 3 kills, and they are also taking 3 model losses. Yeah, Orc Airboys tries to walk up and fire back, but they are just a little too slow with a short range, so they can't really reach their targets. And Goblin Wolf Riders will be sacrificed to the skirmishing fire here, trying to chase and pressure off the mounted yeoman archers. Hammer of Gork and the Feud Trebuchet will be trading shots for a bit, so we will just do a bit of fast forward as the skirmishing game goes on, and the mounted yeoman archers taking some minor losses, being teased by the Goblin Wolf Riders. Fey Enchantress also getting close to the enemy formation, but the mounted yeoman archers are straying way too close compared to the Fey Enchantress, being hit by Fermented Fungi rampaging into the Night Goblin War Boss. Now the Bacon Calf are slamming in, trying really hard to just hack down all these mounted yeoman archer. The Fey Enchantress tries to activate a Dwellers Below to counteract the enemy cavalry blob, but very nice micro from Butcherbird, pulling back part of the Bacon Calf, so not the entire unit got hit by the full might of the devastating Dwellers Below spell. Stone Trolls are also in the fray here, trying to support the fight, and the Royal Hippogriff Knights will be charging in, but they are temporarily locked down by the Tormentor Sword, unable to actually drop down onto the ground here. So very unfortunate for the Bretonnians. The Royal Hippogriff Knights are kind of bugging out after the Tormentor Sword locking them in place for a second, allowing the Night Goblin War Boss to maybe move back through the cover from the Stone Trolls here, while at the same time Knights of the Realm charging into the fray, countercharged by a bunch of Bacon Cav. They're just gonna take some pretty serious armor-piercing damage, and on the other side, their Bretonnian peasants are moving up, trying to fight against the Orc Boar Boys and Goblin Infantry. Now the Goblin War Boss has managed to pull back, while the peasant mobs are kind of stuck on the Stone Trolls, and well, the Royal Hippogriff Knights are still, well, bugging out with their landing animation. Knights of the Realm has taken significant damage, Chalice of Potion nuking some of the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, And things seems to be going pretty well for the greenskins on this side here. A massive Gorko fixes slowing down all the Bretonnian units in the vicinity, including the Fae, the Peasant Mobs, and the Royal Hippogriff Knights, making their charge a little bit less impactful. Stone Trolls are piling in alongside the Bacon Cav. On the other side, we have some Wardens of Montfort being pushed back by Goblin Wolf Riders, and even some Orc Area Boys simply just beat them down in melee combat when they charge in. You can see the bodies littered across the formations here. And the mounted yeoman archers over here has been pushed back by the nasty skulkers and the goblin wolf riders combined. A massive lot has been popped. Now the greenskins are on a roll. The Bretonnians are in a bit of trouble since the goblins have 44 melee attack and actually trading well into the peasant mobs. While over here, a little bit of spell cast earlier, and yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but fermented fungi trying to keep some units in the fight here. Not dropped on the Royal Hippogriff Knights, I don't think. Yeah, they don't seem to be affected by the fermented fungi. Men-at-Arms got hit by the ability. Okay, this is probably a misclick here, kind of wasting the ability on a chaff unit. The men-at-arms have been routed away, and the Royal Hippogriff Knights are still stuck in the fray with some regrouped stone trolls slamming into the back, preventing them from pulling out of this engagement. They are getting lower and lower in terms of health, surrounded by so many armor-piercing entities. Their HP is rapidly dropping, Tormentor Sword locking them in place, preventing them from pulling out of the engagement. The Enchantress, though, just trying to get some Earthblood to heal back herself and the Royal Hippogriff Knights, but I don't think there's any hope left for the Royal Hippogriff Knights. The rest of the battlefield is going in favor of Bretonnia. A bit of a mixed bag, really, with the peasant mobs and Knights of the Realm piling onto the Orc Area Boys, breaching the Goblin defenses, and Wardens of Montfort is still there, but the other mounted yeoman archers got chased off by the Goblin Cav. But then again, most of the value of the Greenskin army piled onto this blob with a lot of their Bacon Cav, their Stone Trolls, both of the units in fact, and yeah, the caster support, the Night Goblin War Boss are all in this vicinity, breaking the Royal Hippogriff Knights and the Knights of the Realm in the vicinity. Only the Fey Enchantress is left in this fight here, draining away the surrounding units with the Mist of the Lady, doing some really good damage over time. However, now she's alone against so many units of greenskins, and the rest of the greenskin army is pushing back hard. Nasty Skulkers engaging into the frontline combat, pushing back the Knights of the Realm, and the men-at-arms will not be doing too well against the Nasty Skulkers, who have a while buffing up them earlier. And yeah, the Nasty Skulkers actually have significantly better stats than the Peasant Mobs, of course. And at the back here, Orc Area Boy still holding down on the flank over here, alongside some Orc Boar Boy Bacon support. The Beast Slayers and Peasant Mobs are just trying to pick the fight and grind down the Orc Boar Boy Bacons, but over here, Fey Enchantress has been routed away, and without her, there's no hope for Bretonnians to bring this back. So the first game will be going to Butcherbird. GG to both players for the first game, and it seems that the Fey Enchantress simply could not survive the onslaught of so many greenskins surrounding her, especially when there's a melee fighter, the Night Goblin War Boss, in the vicinity. Getting some okay value, but mostly the value from the Night Goblin War Boss comes from the fermented fungi luring in enemy units and using the Tormentor Sword to lock down their movement. As for the rest of the army here, Stone Trolls did okay, beating down the enemy cavalry as they charge in after the enemy cavalry is stuck in melee combat. The Orc Boar Boy Bacons, the Bacon Cav in general, just did some really good cost-efficient trade into the Bretonnian cavalry due to their armor-piercing and anti-large. There are no Grail Knights in the battle today, so they actually don't have to worry about enemy anti-large fighting power, while on the other side of the battlefield, the Bretonnian Royal Hippogriff Knights got stuck in melee combat for a little too long there, being overwhelmed by pigs. These Hippogriff Knights, unfortunately, was not able to extract their own value, and the rest of the peasant infantry just didn't really trade cost efficiently into the greenskins anyways. And as soon as the Royal Hippogriff Knights died without enough healing to get them to heal cap and Fey Enchantress being caught out, that is the end of the Bretonnian army. Now that's the first battle done. We'll be moving on to the second one next. The second battle is a rather bizarre matchup between the two players. Not that the High Elves versus Wood Elf matchup is bizarre, but more of the army builds on each side. For Butcherbird as the Wood Elves, he is going for a melee rush, a very heavy reliance onto the aggressive infantry of Wood Elves. Wardancers, 5 of them in total, plus a single unit of Wraiths of the Frozen Heart Regiment of Renowned Dryads with the Frostbite contact effect. And then a ton of mobility here. Glade Riders with Spears, 2 of them, and then 3 units of Great Stag Knights, and then 2 more units of Glade Riders with Hackbane tips, leading the army. Spellweaver of Life with Earthblood and Awakening of the Wood. Awakening of the Wood is an interesting spell choice because of the movement control contact effect. It can reduce enemy movement speed by 45%, making them slower and easier for the Wood Elves to catch up. So yeah, the Wood Elves are going rush heavy today, and on the other side, the High Elves is going for a kite army, giving the Wood Elves a taste of their own medicine, a front line of Shadow Warriors plus a ton of mobility, Fireborn plus Silver Helms, Dragon Princes, actually 2 Dragon Princes on the right flank, leading the army, Alariel the Radiant with Earthblood, and Fast Protection plus Tempest for controlling enemy aerial units in case there are any dragons, eagles, hulks in the skies. And yeah, that's it for the army buffs on both sides. Let's just get the battle started, and as soon as the Wood Elves saw the High Elf army, remember they can't really see the Shadow Warriors due to their stalking ability, but the fact that you can't see them means that they are probably just bringing skirmishers. So the Wood Elves are turning on the Woven Mist ability on the Wardancers, bringing that stand for that missile resistance of 40%, and stacking up with the physical resistance, that's a total of 60% damage mitigation against enemy Shadow Warrior firepower. So even with a volley from multiple units of Shadow Warriors, the Wardancers only took roughly 25% of HP damage, and on top of that they can heal it back up with the Earthblood from the Spellweaver of Life. Now, the infantry of the Wood Elves are just kind of hiding in the forest, biding their time a bit, trying to reform their formation and continue their push once more. Now, 5 units of all these Shadow Warriors trying to shoot at one single unit of Wardancers, and yet still only doing 25% of HP damage roughly, and all that damage they dealt with their precious ammo have been healed back by the Earthblood upgraded version from the Spellweaver. And this is a bit of a trouble for the High Elves for sure. Their ammo is expanding in an alarming rate, and yet they're not accruing the value they need to really win out the game, and some of the shots are missing as well, as the Wardancers move around and forcing those predicted shots to be missing. And yeah, the shots are continuing to rain down onto the Wardancers, but Butcherbird tries to juke those shots, basically just running the Wardancers back and forth. Very nice micro from Butcherbird there, a little bit of a awakening of the wood, slowing down the movement speed of the Shadow Warriors as they try to pull back, giving perhaps the Glade Riders a chance to catch up to these High Elf skirmishers, but a countercharge from the Silver Helms are threatening the Glade Riders to pull back. Now the Shadow Warriors, perhaps shooting into the Glade Riders would have been a better choice, as they do not have that kind of missile resistance as the Woven Mist. One of the Wardancer is now down to less than half health, but still got plenty of space to Earthblood back their health up, as they still have 82 unit models intact. The Great Stag Knights are also not exactly the best choice to shoot at with the Shadow Warriors, as they do have that 35% of missile block chance, and on top of that 20% of physical resistance to further mitigate any incoming small arms fire. Dragon Princes are moving up, but it is now in a rather prolonged skirmishing phase here, as both players are cautiously either advancing or pulling back, trying to dish out as much damage against the enemy player, or trying to catch up with minimizing enemy missile damage on each side. Now the Glade Riders are teasing the Shadow Warriors a bit, dragging those Dragon Princes forward, but Wardancers are coming up to countercharge, though the Wardancers are taking some impact damage as the Dragon Princes slam in, but the Dragon Princes didn't have a charge order on the Wardancers, so the damage is not exactly maximized here, and on top of that, Great Stag Knights are following up with a countercharge against the countercharge. So yeah, the Dragon Princes are in a bit of a pickle as Wardancers, Wraiths of the Frozen Heart, and the Great Stag Knights are piling onto this flank. The Shadow Warriors are not retreating fast enough to get the distance they need to fire back at the Wood Elf troops. More Wardancers are rushing in as well, and will be going back into normal speed as Dragon Princes, this one getting a much better charge into the unbraced Wardancers moving forward. And now they're moving on to the Glade Riders behind the Wardancers, getting some pretty good trade. But yeah, this is a massive pitched engagement. Balance of power wise, the High Elves is in a ever so slightly favor, and the Wardancers though now getting into combat and start cutting down the Shadow Warriors. They didn't really turn off the Woven Mist, as it still is functioning to mitigate any incoming skirmish fire, but it does make them more vulnerable to melee attacks, and they're taking more and more damage in the process. But of course, they're doing a lot of damage in return. Star of Avalon here trying to sustain these Dragon Princes in the surround of a ton of Great Stag Knights and Glade Riders. Even Wardancers are still fighting and pressuring the Shadow Warriors back. In the short few seconds in contact, the Wardancers managed to put a dent in the Shadow Warriors' HP bar, and a bit of an Earthblood healing on the Wardancers and Great Stag Knights, keeping them in a fight against the Fireborn and the Silver Helms. Fast Protection upgraded version providing armor and melee defense to protect the Silver Helms, while the Shadow Warriors continues to rain down fire, but not exactly doing the most damage in the process. Their best target, of course, are the Glade Riders with Hackbane tips, without shields, without any ways to mitigate incoming missile damage. They are taking more and more damage from the skirmish fire, but they are getting a really nice pick here, eliminating one unit of Dragon Princes with the overwhelming force of Wood Elf Cavalry, particularly the Great Stag Knights with armor piercing to bypass those Dragon Princes' heavy armor. And on the other side, the Great Stag Knights routing yet another Dragon Princes, getting some really good engagements overall, since they managed to catch those Dragon Princes alongside the Shadow Warriors who have been routed early already. And yeah, remember the Fireborn does not have much AP damage in this battle because this is recorded before patch 5.1, so yeah, these are still non-armor piercing Fireborn, not that it matters against Wood Elf anyways. But yeah, the Great Stag Knights are just rolling through the Shadow Warriors formations now, running down yet another High Elf Archer unit. The Silver Helms here caught out, surrounded by Great Stag Knights and Wood Elf Infantry. Even the Wardancers are still fighting in the mix, as they are a rather elite infantry, all things considered, aside of their lack of armor. And the Silver Helms will be routed, leaving Alario alone in this blob, so she'll be moving away, taking some shots from the Glade Rider Hackbane tips. And yeah, her physical resistance doesn't really work against the magical ammo here. And the fact that she lacks armor means she's also very vulnerable to skirmishing firepower. However, speaking of skirmishing firepower, the Shadow Warriors, still having a last few volleys left, will be unloading into the Wood Elf blob, but an Earthblood heal from the Spellweaver of Life, giving the Great Stag Knights, who are rather depleted so far, a little bit of a health boost, and managing to catch the Fireborn in the middle of the mix here. Fireborn surrounded on all fronts, taking more and more damage, but an Earthblood from Alario keeping them in the fight here. And a Star of Avalon, if it is off cooldown, would be a very timely boon to the High Elf army. However, the Shadow Warriors are being slowly finished off in melee combat, as the Wardancers are also in the fray. They don't have much melee defense due to the Woven Mist, reducing their melee defense, but they do have the anti-infantry bonus to make up for their lack of protection. So they're just really cutting through the Shadow Warriors in combat while taking a bunch of damage in return. Fireborn pushing a little too far away from the Star of Avalon, not actually getting the heal, and this might be a devastating mistake for the Fireborn here. Balance of power is still relatively even, but with the Fireborn caught out by a bunch of Great Stag Knights, they are quickly hacked down. Fast Protection attempting to give them the armor and melee defense to stay alive in the fight, but unfortunately they're still overwhelmed. Not that the Star of Avalon healing would make any difference here, I don't believe, as the Wood Elves still have a lot of forces left to just overwhelm them by sheer numbers. Especially the Great Stag Knights are there, ready to perform a charge into their face with all those armor-piercing cavalry. And yeah, at this point, the High Elves are out of resources, out of units, out of options, and that shall be another victory for Butchers, securing the win in this best of 3. And yeah, that's it for today's best of 3, and congratulations to Butcherbird for the win. Now for the army performances here, the Wardancers getting some pretty good value as long as they made contact with the Shadow Warriors, which are a pretty expensive skirmishing infantry. And because of the Woven Mist and the physical resistance on the Wardancers, Most of the damage from the Shadow Warriors got mitigated by the Wood Elves. Remember, that was a 60% damage reduction against the missiles from the Shadow Warriors. So the Shadow Warriors, despite expending most of their ammo, were not able to get some insane value here. Yeah, they did a lot of damage overall, but that is just not quite enough to carry the game, as a lot of that damage were bloated up by the healing done by the Wood Elves Spellweaver. So yeah, the Wardancers still managed to survive with all their units into the late game, despite being rather tattered, and the Great Stag Knights did some really solid damage with their AP against the Dragon Princes. And as for the other side of the battlefield there, the Dragon Princes, Fireborn did some solid damage, just not quite able to overcome the enemy healing themselves despite having that fire damage, while Alario the Radiant mostly there for healing instead of damage dealing power. And the Shadow Warriors, they need to earn back roughly double their cost to actually carry the game here, and they failed to do that. And yeah, that's it for today's battles. I hope you all enjoyed this multiplayer action. If you want to see more Total Warhammer multiplayer content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll be casting more Warpstone Cup matches, so yeah, keep an eye out for new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.